Episode 3. Tua Tua. Episode 3. Tua Tua. Episode 3. Tua Tua. At this moment, perhaps no one in the border region between Thailand and Cambodia is thinking about sea game, while the television speakers are still blaring sports slogans. Outside, their lives are torn apart by completely different sounds. The heavy engines of armored vehicles grinding on the ground. The scattering of earth and rocks as tanks break through barriers, and the slight tremors in the ground each time a shell is fired somewhere near home. Residents on both sides of the border are accustomed to instability, but today brings a different kind of impact, more specific, closer, and they see dust swirling under iron wheels. Instead of athlete transport convoy, they hear children crying in fear, rather than cheers of sports encouragement. The pre-planned festival days are overshadowed by harsh reality. War has arrived right at their doorstep, unannounced, and with no promise of ending soon. In that moment, all competitions in Bangkok become a luxury. What the people face is not a medal tally, but a simple question: whether they can leave the danger zone before the situation worsens. At the border on the morning of December 8th, every statement from the two capitals sounds like two different versions of the same story. Each side claims it was forced to act. Cambodia reports 4 civilian deaths, while Thailand argues it only conducted airstrikes and self. And between these assertions, public opinion questions if these are truly high-precision operations. Why do the first casualties fall on civilians? While Bangkok emphasizes that all attacks target military objectives, Major General Grinpai Sawari expands the argument by pointing out that Phnom Penh has increased troop numbers, weapons, and even long-range firepower aimed deep into Thai territory. Many observers believe this message is not merely to explain military actions, but also to reinforce Thailand's image as the threatened party. However, observers question, if Cambodia was truly so well prepared, why did the clashes erupt so suddenly and spread across multiple points, like an immediate reaction? Subsequently, Thailand accuses Phnom Penh of continuing, even secretly in areas where Thai engineers are conducting mine clearance. This argument leads many analysts to recall familiar scenario. Each country presents evidence that it has endured too long, and this morning's attack was just the last straw. But simultaneously, Cambodia has its own story. Information Minister Ned Phiacha declares 4 civilians dead, over 1,157 households. For Cambodian people, the question is not who fired first, but why ceasefire agreements, signed round after round, continue to break down so quickly. And then the image emerges of Senate President Hun Sen canceling all work schedules to join Armed Forces Command. Some commentators note that this move affirms Cambodia's desire to avoid being dragged into a passive, but there's another view. When a high-ranking official must go directly to the front line, it often signals that the machinery is facing greater pressure than officially announced. Counterattacks are claimed to be limited and precise, but public opinion questions whether such limits are when fighting spreads to multiple points like Alma, Wat Maria, or Prasawa. The bigger issue is that both countries use words to demonstrate goodwill, in exchange with artillery and air power. Ultimately, both Bangkok and Phnom Penh claim to be the more restrained side. Yet at the border, residents do not easily recognize that restraint. There, only 3 things exist: the sound of artillery, evacuation news, and the fragile hope that tensions will. At this very moment, Thailand issued a statement, considered an 18-hour ultimatum to Cambodia. This ultimatum is not just a time limit, it resembles a clearly set political signal. That Thailand wants to prove it is in a position to set conditions, not be swept along by the pace of attacks from across the border. Some observers argue that setting specific deadlines is often used when a government wants to demonstrate strategic initiative and discipline. But there are also opinions questioning whether, if tensions have truly spiraled beyond control, such a timeline still holds practical meaning or is merely symbolic. Following that, Thailand accused Cambodia of firing artillery and rockets that landed in several provinces, causing damage in some residential. This information immediately became the basis for Bangkok to assert that it had every reason to retaliate with airstrikes. Independent analysts monitoring the area raised the issue that, under conditions of limited visibility and skirmishes, accurately determining the trajectory, therefore, claims of who was attacked first will always remain in a gray area, where each country can rely on its own data to construct a version of the truth that aligns with political objectives. From these developments, Thailand's emphasis on pursuing 2 paths, deploying air forces while maintaining diplomatic channels, creates a familiar paradox. Diplomacy uses the language of peace, but press conferences are accompanied by stern warnings. Many experts believe this is a delicate balance any government must maintain, not retreating to be seen as weak, but not advancing too far to lose control of the situation. On the other side, Senate President Hun Sen continues to portray Thailand as the provocateur for China. In this context, calls for frontline forces to be patient serve both as a signal to reassure internally and as a way for Cambodia to demonstrate they are not the side seeking to escalate conflict. However, public opinion also notes Cambodia's urgent evacuation of civilians, indicating they assess the situation as more serious. Clearly, calls for calm always have a flip side. More patience is urged, the more it proves hostilities could spiral beyond More notably, amid escalating tensions, Hun Sen still mentioned the SEA Games and instructed Cambodian athletes to compete normally. This decision is generating mixed reactions. Similarly, Cambodia wants to show that they are not letting hostilities dictate the national image, especially when the sports event is hosted on Thai soil. But other voices argue that maintaining the competition schedule as if nothing happened inadvertently reflects a paradox. Hostilities are occurring just a few hundred kilometers from the athletes, and their task is to calmly compete as if the border were peaceful. The crux of the debate lies in both countries striving to maintain rhetorical initiative. Thailand portrays itself as the defensive side, Cambodia asserts it is exercising. Both also speak of peace, but alongside that of shelling, deadlines, airstrikes, and retaliation warnings. For regional observers, the most obvious thing now is that each new statement seems to make the bigger question ring louder and clearer. Are both sides truly trying to restrain, or are they restraining in ways that suit their own interests? And when the clock reaches the 6 p.m. deadline set by Thailand, what public opinion cares about is not just which side will violate it, but whether the two countries are reaching a point where every ultimatum, every restraint declaration, every call for calm becomes insufficient to hold back the violence. From the perspective of regional observers, another notable point is how each country continuously invokes the October peace. Thailand says Cambodia violated it, Cambodia says Thailand broke it first. Regional public opinion is beginning to question whether these peace documents truly create a binding mechanism, or merely become tools to interpret situations in ways favorable to each side. When Phnom Penh sends notifications to ASEAN observer groups and Bangkok continues to emphasize many opinions suggest both are trying to score diplomatic points while the ground situation remains chaotic. And then, looking back at the chain of events from July to now, major casualties, hundreds of thousands, then signing, then cracks, then renewed clashes. People cannot help but wonder if this spiral is repeated. Are familiar with but neither dares to acknowledge. While leaders of both countries exchange tough statements, people in areas far from the border continue packing their belongings, preparing to leave.
And that, more than any ultimatum or speech.
The precariousness of the peace both countries constantly.
Subscribe to the Arcane Atlas channel to see the latest videos.
Like the journey? Subscribe and join the next expedition.